Welcome back, everyone, to the State Farm Analyst Zone, where we have Suning and G2 loading onto the Rift. And last time these teams played, it was one of the most intense games in World's history, and the stakes are so much higher now. This game will decide the fight for first in Group A and the fate of Team Liquid. If G2 wins, G2 is first, and Team Liquid and Suning face off in a tiebreaker game. If Suning wins and G2 lose, Team Liquid is out of Worlds, and G2 and Suning have to play an extra game, a tiebreaker, for first. EU holds NA's faith in their hands and also the chance to lock first seed. And we know how important that's going to be if we look down at the other groups and their potential #1 seeds.
And NA now get to experience the struggles that all EU fans have of trying to believe in G2 Esports. Because they are a bit of a roller coaster. You know, you never quite know which G2 is going to show up on the day. But the good news for TL is G2 have been on form today, and they look poised and ready to take on Suning.
Yes, let's look at G2 and the fact that they came into this World Championship, as always, with high aspirations. They had the best year in the organization's history last year with the MSI title and the World Finals, and they're looking to go deep in this World Championship. But getting the #1 seed, Yamato, would be very, very good for them.
It would be historical. G2 have never done it before. They've been at the World Championship a couple of times, and getting that first seed is going to be monumental, especially in a tournament that is so stacked. I think G2 are looking at this as an opportunity to gain maybe a lot of fans, or just do...
Right now, they have a lot of fans.
maybe they would do the G2 on-brand thing and just tank a game and then just
Is that Steve giving Perkz a massage right now?
Let's talk about kind of G2 and Suning and what we've seen from them and what we then may expect, because Suning came into this as also favorites in this group, and the first game these two played was so crazy, could have gone either way. How have both teams evolved that you've seen in their subsequent games, and how did they arrive at this best-of-1?
Well, I felt like in the first week, we actually saw a much better Suning than what we've been seeing recently. I think that SofM has continued to play his style, but one of the coin-flipped aspects of his style is that he often plays for himself, and sometimes things can go wrong. With a good draft and a means of being able to punish, I think that teams have found ways to actually take advantage of some of the stylistic approaches that SofM and Suning come in with the game.
I feel like the last game they played against Team Liquid is just not enough for me to like let the Suning stock go down, because that draft was awful.
Yeah.
Very, very bad. They had a full AD composition, and the single AP carry that was supposed to kill them all fight, he's throwing cards. So, of course, they're not going to break him down.
That was an oopsie. One matchup I want to focus in is in the top lane. Wunder, who has been having a fantastic tournament so far, and Bin, who's also been impressing people. Maybe not so much just that last game, but overall a matchup to watch.
Yeah, it certainly is. I think that when you look at how Wunder has been playing so far at Worlds, he's definitely someone that draws attention to the eye, and I think that many LPL fans have been very excited to see Bin on the international stage. Still also a very young player, but mechanically very gifted, and domestically he had a phenomenal performance. So I think that we're already setting up for a really interesting matchup, and this could be pivotal in the outcome of this game.
Give me some specifics. We know they're good, but what do we want to see? Are we going to see carry? Are we going to see tanks? What's going to happen?
I don't know exactly what matchup we might see, because Wunder is so versatile, but Bin loves to fight in the lane phase. He loves to go for those solo kills. He loves to pick that counter. The edge that Wunder has over Bin is when games get to that dark zone where all the dark technology starts to happen.
Like
where,
what?
you know, like the last time they were around, they were playing, and all of a sudden they're 40 minutes in the game, and this is not something that we saw in the LPL. Teams brawl, teams fall behind, and then they lose. SofM and Suning, they were very surprised. I hope they learned a lot from the last one.
I think one of the biggest things in the last time that they faced was we saw an Ornn versus Renekton match up in the top side of the map. And like, I think that's actually one of the biggest differences though, because Yamato already talked about the versatility and depth that Wunder showcases in his champion pool, but that was extremely valuable when it got to those late stage fights in their last game. And I think that Wunder's only continued to show a wide array of styles. So I wonder if he's going to try and match up in the carries, or instead we're going to see more of a team-focused play.
All right, we got to go predictions. Is G2 going to keep TL in the race and give themselves the first seed?
I really do believe in G2 Esports. I think that they have been playing extremely well right now. I think that they've come in well prepared, and I think they have a plan.
Fast.
Honestly, the people watching the broadcast don't want to hear my prediction. So
just want to see the game.
Yes.
All right, cool. This is the game that will decide the fate of Group A as G2 and Suning face off in an epic rematch. Let's go.
Hello, I'm going to be honest, I'm really just trying to contain the hype right now. You guys have heard the stakes. I'll say them one more time, and I'll say them again when someone is on their deathbed in this game. If Suning wins, Suning versus G2 is our next game for first. If G2 win, TL versus Suning is our next game with a quarterfinal spots at the line. The winner will take second seed out of Group A. And this is one group. All this stress, all this excitement, if you are an EU fan, an LPL fan, an NA fan, hell, even a PCS fan, all this stress, all this excitement is one day. This is an absolutely nuts group. Guaranteed a tiebreaker. There will be one more game after this. But you heard from the desk, a lot of different things to talk about when we look at this matchup. Last game, Frosk, I know a lot of people were like, oh my God, G2, ooh, you know, crushed that game, and they believed in it. But I know that you have a bit more of a tempered take on what exactly happened in the previous matchup.
The last time that Suning faced G2, it felt like G2, in my opinion, broke the draft difference. Their team fighting was crisp and beautiful. They outfought Suning. They pulled it back in a crazy base race. So I don't expect them to win in the same way that they did the first time around. That said, now going into the draft, Suning on the blue side, just to quote Yamato, we had a horrible draft the last time from Suning. SofM's pathing was really punished, didn't really help out his laners, they fell behind, and then TL's composition just made it that Suning's comp couldn't do anything to them. So need to make some drafting adjustments here and really give firepower back to the laners, particularly Ben, because he is up against Wunder. I think that these two are the best top laners in this respective group, and I really do want to see their heads clash.
And with Lucian now banned away, as well as two of the relatively safe blind pickable top laners in Shen and Ornn, you have to feel like this is a bit of a call out from Ben towards Wunder. He was BMing with the Aurelia Jace hovers previously, the Galio now taken away as well from Angel, limiting that global presence. But we're now set up for a very explosive top lane matchup. We could be seeing Bullabear Renekton, or we could be going even deeper into the carry pool. The Camille's, the Jaxes, so many things up and available.
You would expect that this would be a priority pick for either mid or jungle. SofM usually would grab a jungler here, like a Graves. That's interesting. Wow, giving so much respect to Cap. So something that I really wanted to point out was the fact that they're banning Lucian from blue side. We've seen a couple of drafts where Lucian has completely fallen through, and you've seen when G2 gets their hands on this champion, as well as some of the other teams in the other groups, how powerful it is. And it is something to kind of keep track of as we go deeper into this tournament, especially open up into best of fives. Is this Suning having a very clear-cut plan from their coach right there to ban the Lucian, priority pick Syndra, and limit maybe Cap's effectiveness or his champion pool? Or is this Suning saying that they just don't play the Lucian, or they won't play the Lucian into the mid lane for the tournament?
Yeah, interesting. Playing the Lucian would most likely mean a follow-up Lilia pick. Maybe that's something that they don't want to play here. But the Graves now locked in for Jankos. Of course, when you look at the jungle priority list, this makes a lot of sense. But remember, the last time we saw this matchup, SofM took the Lee Sin and dominated Jankos in the early game. But now the Ekko has been locked in, has been picked up, most likely going into the hands of Caps in the mid lane.
The counter pick to Syndra, it is just really hard to play out here, and this felt like it was going to be an obvious answer because we've already seen Caps pull it out into this specific matchup, so maybe Suning stepping onto a landmine themselves. Now, taking a Syndra does increase the priority that maybe you see a Lee Sin from SofM, one of his signature champions that goes really well with the Syndra, especially if you want that strong 2v2 mid jungle, but instead putting so much priority on getting this Camille.
Camille, of course, generally considered one of the of the duelist options, relatively safe early game. Obviously has some counter options, but with Grasp of the Undying and her general tankiness, she doesn't suffer too much in a lot of matchups. But now the Renekton will be locked in, so we have the entire top side now confirmed for the G2 Esports lineup.
And already you see the priority on what feels like from Suning's draft is a lot of more about denying, not that their players can't play these champions, but rather than grabbing kind of power picks for themselves, it feels like they're denying power picks from G2. You know, we saw Perkz pop off specifically in the Ezreal, and that means that then they're not getting some of their bread and butter combinations. You know, SofM's Lee Sin immediately snapped off the board there when you see a Syndra, and I'm like, okay, this might be SofM's Lee Sin, Syndra Lee, very powerful, but it's not going to be available for them.
Now I'm curious to see what G2 want to prioritize for the bottom side of the map. Obviously with huanfeng having the Ezreal available, he's going to have a lot of independency, a lot of agency. Maybe we get a Bard support coming out for SwordArt. Maybe something that can roam a little bit more. But on the opposite side, because there's a Camille on the enemy team, maybe do we see a Tahm Kench trying to protect Perkz, trying to protect members in these more drawn-out fights against the likes of a Syndra. Value on that pick is very high from the Devourer alone.
I feel like Senna Kench would be the obvious answer for G2 here in the draft phase. I would imagine that they'll grab Senna as kind of next pick unless it's banned right here.
I mean, the thing is Kalista is still up and available.
But the thing is like you said, there's Syndra and there's Camille. Kench's priority skyrockets here. and Ezreal Kinch just isn't that great of a matchup. So it's not like there's any threat of Suning grabbing it here.
This decision going to be Thresh banned away. I like it. Want to limit the proactive playmaking champions that Mikyx can bring to the table, especially now that the Rakan has been banned away as well.
It also takes that stock down in that Kalista that you were talking about.
These are big options, of course. These final picks can decide so much about a draft. SofM really saving his pick till very late in the draft, wants to have as much information available as possible because it's not just about what he can do to Jankos early on, but what he can do to the rest of the map. Because now we have the Senna locked in. Feels like a more passive answer to the Ezreal.
At this point, you need to grab your bot lane. You're probably looking at Ezreal Bard, long distance champions. SwordArt obviously has a phenomenal Bard. Would also work very well with them trying to contest for lane phase.
Bard now locked in. See what the final pick will be here. Of course, G2 have pretty heavily telegraphed that they will want to play around the top side of the map. And now the Jarvan locked in for SofM. This is a pick that has dropped in priority significantly this year, but does still rear its head. Very much a tier 2, maybe even tier 3 jungler when you look at team priorities, but obviously can still have a very big impact in the early game with the flag and drag, with the Cataclysm.
It's also the LPL special, you know, that cannonball comp. You're one Galio away from Camille and Jarvan and Galio of being the highlight, and that just got locked in.
I didn't think we'd see one of those ever again, but there it is. That's a Senna support now for Mikyx. Perkz busting out the Kalista, and the big question is going to be, does he bind with the Crocodile and sacrifice some of that early laning power to really double up on team fight? It's going to be interesting to track. Of course, feels like we would, or up until the Kalista pick, it felt like we'd be looking only at the top side for G2. Ekko and Renekton would love to have the support from Graves, but now it's very much a different story. Eyes on the junglers inevitably in this matchup, but the top laners as well.
Fighting a lot for lane priority here from G2. They are not going to let Suning just have these free lane phases with the Kalista coming out right now. And like you said, we're curious where he's going to bind with. Does he not bind with the Senna and instead bind with Wunder the Crocodile for these big team fights? Perkz, of course, is a phenomenal Kalista player. If you guys haven't seen it yet, if you're not fans of the LEC, so watch out for that one, as huanfeng and SwordArt definitely have their work cut out for them. But on Bard and Ezreal should remain pretty safe in the lane, but will probably lose down priority unless something really goes sideways.
Have to keep our eyes, especially now, as well, on the early game level 1s. What's it going to be? So many teams have doubled down, so many teams have gambled, and so many teams have lost on the back of a good, or rather a bad level 1. So see what both teams want to pull together here as we get ready, as we load into game. This could be the final game for G2. We'll have to find out, but either way, Suning is going to have to play 2 back-to-back. Will it be a tiebreaker for second, fighting for their tournament lives, or a tiebreaker for first, knowing that no matter what happens, they can make it out of groups?
Look at the disrespect from Ben. That is teleport ignite.
Folks, I'm going to level with you. I talked to Whippo a lot about top lane matchups. I learned a lot about how Renekton Camille goes. But he never mentioned Ignite or Omnistone, and I'm going to guess he didn't mention it to you either, Frosco, so we're just going to have to see how this one unfolds. Okay,
so here's the thing. The level 1 can be powerful, obviously, from both teams. You have the likes of the Ezreal, the Bard, looking at those runes. You have the Kalista as well as the Senna, but there's more emphasis on Jankos as the farming jungler and the dueling jungler here. Whereas, obviously, for SofM on the Jarvan, the LPL special, if you will, it's much more about the ganks, and he has set up in every single lane. So G2 need to make it a responsibility to figure out on what side SofM is starting, so delayed invade from the Tri-Brush itself as Mikyx starts the Oracle lens. And as soon as they get information of where SofM is starting, making sure that they keep him on the back foot so he's unable to impact the lanes through ganks. Here's the level 1.
Walking forward, contesting this one. Red buff should reset. How long do they want to spend here? It's going to be the big question. Smite is going to be important. And sadly, the red buff's patient, not resetting quite yet. It looks like G2 just trying to get that reset to buy more time. But Jankos is actually going to be the one who suffers as he takes a ton of damage. Mikyx as well going to be forced to flash out to safety. And it looks like the bond is between Mikyx and Perkz early on here, so trying to maximize the Oathsworn damage in lane.
Yeah, it feels like a bit of a blunder there from G2, especially losing both summoner spells on Mikyx as Jankos heads back towards his blue buff. Should look for a full clear here. SofM has a ward on his red buff, so knows that it wasn't taken from him. Can just do a full clear bot side. Now Krug to red. Maybe he does the Raptors, or maybe he walks to top side jungle and tries to get involved into this top side matchup, as Wunder is looking to try to get the wave shoved in and a bounce early off of Ben's tower.
Yeah, Wunder managing his rage pretty well. The level 2 now coming in, and Camille may fish for the all-in here. Is just going to back off instead. Tactical sweep and the precision protocol. No hookshot wall dive quite yet.
I mean, naturally, just thinking about it and theory crafting a bit, you don't have the safety of having the flash, but having access to the ignite makes your kill pressure go up exponentially. Now, the thing about Renekton is he's so powerful with his ultimate, and it's not just about trading, it's about the fact that it's almost like a built-in heal, and your Call of the Meek is such a powerful ability in itself that it really is just about that for Renekton, and then as soon as he gets level 6, he can just keep himself so healthy and so safe into a lane phase. But Ignite, which you don't normally expect to be up into the top side, may change that.
Definitely has the potential to. For now, though, we are seeing the Renekton come out on top. Sometimes in early trades, Camille can get an advantage as her passive feels a lot more useful when Renekton doesn't have a few levels in Cold to Meek and can't just stack up that rage very easily. But Wunder holding on to control for now. We're seeing Bin very quickly burn through his mana bar. This might be problematic as the lane phase continues forward. But for those checking in on how Omnistone has been doing, actually pretty solid so far. Has procced Comet, has procced Fleet Footwork. So overall, Camille as a champion who likes a lot of different runes and is now potentially not quite going to be able to all-in Wunder there, is getting a lot of use out of it.
And again, the matchup will be a little bit difficult for Wunder until he gets 6th, and obviously after first back, so we would expect Bin to be a really big threat here, and Wunder needing to respect him. Is checking in on mid lane. The nerfs to Syndra made this matchup a little bit harder, and it is much easier for Ekko than it was in the past, especially once you get access to level 6. Obviously, your ability to just completely deny Syndra's ultimate is a big factor, but even before level 6, the increased mana cost for Syndra make it much harder for her to punish as effectively as she once did in a melee versus range matchup.
Yeah, an interesting pivot that we saw coming in the draft, Frosco, is just the difference in priorities on champions, right? Because Lee Sin is someone who can look to keep up with Graves. It feels like early on, look to pressure a lot more, but SofM being on the back foot is not something that we're used to seeing across the group stage. Even in games that Suning ultimately lose, SofM usually in a very commanding lead. So while the Jarvan certainly can have big impact across the map, it is not having big impact early in the jungle here, and SofM gonna have to run for the hills as Jankos just starts to bully him out of his own side.
And finally, the shoe is on the other foot for Jankos, and G2 in particular, using the priority from both his laners, the teleport from Caps to come back fully stocked. Angel has no mana. He cannot help his jungler out here. Oh, this one's gonna hurt SofM. He really cares about Krugs.
But now stepping forward, SwordArt's going to be in trouble here. Where's the follow-up going to go, though? TP now coming in. Perkz actually going to be the one who gets turned on here. The TP now completing. Syndra on the way in. Angel now has a bit of mana. Big scatter of the week and the turn. That's going to be first blood. Caps just barely able to make it over the wall, but huanfeng is not done yet. But the Dragon is going to knock him back. It's going to stop him in his tracks. Still, Suning chasing forward, trying to maximize, trying to double down on this advantage, but have to be careful. The Dragon's certainly helping out G2 at this point. huanfeng has to run for the hills. He's going to get locked down, but will he get taken out? No. The flag dragged through, but Jankos is going to flash over the top. Caps waiting on the backside. It's a drawn-out brawl. Wunder on the backside. What else can he get done? Can they kite the croc? Flash forward is going to be able to lock him down, but does not stun the right target. Wants to go through the wall, but the portal so tiny, doesn't make any sense to follow through on, and Caps now has to get out. Jankos has to get out. Where's he going to go? Waiting on the phase dive. Going to dash away to safety. huanfeng coming through. Angel messes up the combo. He could have had it. He could have had it all. He had the Dark Sphere, he had the Scatter of the Weak, but he just doesn't nail it. I'm not sure if that was mana. I'm not sure if that was error on his part, but it does not work. He does not get the kill.
I'm going to be very honest, Jankos. That was a bit of a clown car. With all of the different teleports. Everyone and their mother expended teleport except for Ben. Ben just chilled. I think he got 2 waves. He's now getting a big crash into Wunder's tower. Wunder's going to have to take it back. Actually, Ben's going to be very respectful. I was going to say, you can try to deny Wunder a lot here, but his jungler's not on that side of the map. And all over SofM's Krugs. You will not take this man's Krugs. We will expend 20 teleports to deny that.
It started at Krugs. It kind of became about Infernal Dragon unintentionally halfway through. Neither team wanted to finish the job.
So the first teleport from Caps gave G2 the priority to make that play, and then it was really the second teleport from Angel, the full mana, full health Syndra rocking in, that completely flipped everything on its side, so G2 being a bit disrespectful to the fact that they had lost information on the enemy mid laner.
Yeah, but now on the top side of the map, Wunder isn't going to be super comfortable in this matchup. In terms of raw champion power, Renekton definitely still a bigger threat, but given the sheen compared to, well, the Doran shield, sheen and the longsword, itemization certainly not favoring him right now, as well as, of course, combat summoners, the ignite available for Bin. His ultimate, though, of course, much, much stronger.
But Jankos is on this side of the map, and you can see after Krug Camp, maybe he tries to slide in and help Wunder here, walking over a brush, or excuse me, a ward in the tri-brush. So Ben has information now, standing very defensively against that wall, so he can use hookshot to get away.
Yeah. Jankos just shadowing there, nice for Wunder. Able to pull this one back. Of course, is in a position where he could try to set up a freeze. Ben going to try to stand and contest the wave to stop him from doing so. Adaptive defense is already proc, so if Wunder wants to extend the trade, now it's going to start to favor him a little bit more, but press the attack will make it a bit more difficult. Omnistone continuing to roll some pretty solid options.
And Ben's going to feel really confident to try to contest Wunder from starting a freeze right there, because he did have information that Jankos tried to gank top back. You even saw a blue ping come down on Jankos as he was pathing towards the bottom side of his jungle. So it's going to be about contesting this Infernal, which is why huanfeng and SwordArt are now walking into bot side river, knowing that Jankos is on this side of the map, and knowing that Infernal might be the next big target that people are playing around.
And interestingly, after all that action, SofM is ahead in the jungle again somehow. I don't know how he finds a way to do it every single time, but he does. Wunder, though, going to continue to look to extend these trades. Bin, though, just trading back and forth. Hail of Blades now getting selected. Very scrappy matchup. Neither side really be able to make an impact on the other.
Bin does need to be more careful, however. There's not information that Jankos is on the Infernal, and his team does have vision to see that he's not in bottom side river. He knows that all the bot side camps have been taken, so he must assume that Jankos is on top side with red buff being back up, which means that this freeze can now actually try to punish. So we'll see if SofM tries to dig him out as blue is spawning on this side. He should hand it over to Angel, or if SofM will hand the blue, then path back towards Infernal, and try to use Bin as a soaking pressure point to trade Dragon for his Camille.
It's certainly a good question. Of course, we can expect the action to uptick at least a little bit. Is now Wunder going to be caught out. The hookshot wall dive, the leap in, but now Bard coming in across, and the Senna all just a little bit too late there from Perkz and Mikyx. Nice kill pickup. SwordArt now going to tick over to level 6 as well. A lot of things going in favor of Suning.
Just really talented. It's been a long time where you've seen
Hold that thigh, big fat stun, and goodbye to Angel. All right, 1 for 1. Teams now trading blows.
Speaking of talented, Caps. I was about to give a compliment to Bin and the top laners for LPL, but I might not have a moment to do that as we are skirmishing very heavily over topside river control.
Fighting, it looks like, for that early Herald. Jankos has kicked that one off already. SofM burning the flag and drag just to clear out the mid wave, has completed the Cinder Hole.
And because you have information of where SofM is behind the tower, it does give G2 so much, that's what I'm looking for.
Pressure, agency.
I was going to say the clear.
Buzzword.
Pressure, agency, tempo, no. Gives them the clear to start the Herald. So they've pulled Mikyx and Jankos. He should be able to pick this up pretty much for free here. As SwordArt's actually also babysitting Ben, who is very low health and mana without teleport.
Yeah, it's a little bit difficult for Ben, obviously. When he's going forward, when he's getting aggressive, when he's finding fights on his terms, that Ignite's going to feel really good. But when someone's threatening the dive, it's not going to feel nearly as nice. As SwordArt throws down that portal, that's a big old bluff. Just threatening G2 that if someone was there, that they could get caught out. This huanfeng is now here to respond. A single plate, though, going over to G2.
This is actually really massive for G2, though, because now they have information that huanfeng and SwordArt are on top side of the map, and Jankos, after he does these bottom clears, could actually try to just take the Infernal by himself. So we could be looking at a world where, in the current map state, G2 get Herald and Infernal.
Yeah, good setup to do so. And could try to follow up with using that Herald afterward, depending on where they can get the pressure. But SofM now moving down to the bottom side. Camille will be able to reset the wave, it looks like. Hard to tell from the minimap. But yes, she has done so. So there is room to contest this one. And it looks like Jankos is just going to back off in the meantime. He's got camps on the top side respawning that he does need to pick up. And SofM will lay down the vision. We'll check it out. Saw the play that you were talking about coming, Frostco, and did not want to let it go through.
SofM does have access to his ultimate now, level 7. I would imagine that they'll want to play around Ben, so Wunder has the target on his back, especially because now Suning have seen that there was a possibility that they lose Infernal. There is Herald still in Jankos' hands. Maybe he uses it either mid lane or top lane, depending on how the next skirmish will go. As here's the gank on Wunder that we talked about.
Oh, very risky. Can they turn this one, though? Wunder taking a lot of damage. TP now coming in, but they're just going to shred him down, dash out to safety. The flash away from the Cataclysm damage, that's going to be massive, but Caps now leaping into the midst of this entire fight will just snap back.
Top!
And he's able to hold the wave top lane. All things considered, that worked out pretty well for G2 Esports, but still, a bit of a questionable place for Wunder to be.
Yeah, but nice job on the flash that you talked about, dodging the Cataclysm damage, and the damage may have been done for Suning, however.
Herald now coming into the bottom side. Bin going to be in trouble here. SofM's already back. He's already walking top side, so this should be pretty easy for G2 to be able to take this tower with the power of the Herald, but they might fish for some kills as well.
Wow. Just really impressive individual outplays from G2 to allow them to pick up these monster objectives. Multiple plates on Perkz here. Jankos is still sitting on the Herald. He can drop it here if he wants, or he can save it for mid lane. And control over Herald is Dragon, as Suning trying to fight back.
Big damage coming in. Perkz now needs to make his way out to safety. Jankos is going to get shut down on the backside, though. Absolutely just shredded through by that Syndra. And now G2 are caught between the entire team. They're trying to get at least one kill back, but G2 very much overcommitting, getting nothing in exchange. Now they've got mid and they've got top pushing, but in the meantime, Suning is just clapping the fight.
Caster curse the hell out of G2 right there. So I was just complimenting that in the kind of the last two fights, you know, the solo kill on mid, the outplay on the bot lane, especially with the TP. But then G2 just had to go and way overcommit there. They got greedy for the plates, and Suning, like you said, just clapped on them. They got the resets onto the map. They picked up multiple kills in the bot lane. There wasn't any TPs to come in to save G2, and they picked up the Infernal. So a very nice turn for Suning.
You can see Mikyx constantly stepping forward, throwing out snares, but they don't connect. And Ben, very confident to leap in here, also gets the grasp in the meantime. And second Perkz is caught out here. Jankos just walks into no man's land. Syndra, very easy kill pickup. Gets the shutdown as well to top everything off. And G2, they're just two people. What are they supposed to do? They're two very squishy people.
Also want to give huge credit to SwordArt right there. I know that it was really Angel turning the fight when he joined, but SwordArt, nice little sidestep to make sure that Perkz and Mikyx weren't able to trade 1-for-1 there on the back half, as well as leading with the Bard ultimate. But coming back onto the map, there's the Herald that we wanted to see. They're forced to use it to break down this bottom lane, continue to snowball, and keep this Kalista ahead of the clock.
And it looks like they're going to get another charge as well. Of course, Syndra may try to interrupt that one. But at this point in the game, Suning, they've got a Drake. The gold just about dead even, so all things considered, working out pretty fine after what were some unfortunate early game circumstances. They've now balanced things back. SofM again pulling ahead in jungle CS. Camille already to the Trinity Force. Renekton matching with the Blade of the Rune King, but SwordArt there for just a little bit of extra back.
And you can see that now, the difference in the turret plates. I do want to talk about, though, Camille. So a lot of this turret plate gold went into the hands of Perkz in particular. You can see now, completed Blade of the Rune King, but this Camille has a Trinity Force complete. She's a big deal.
Absolutely is. Caps taking his time to snap back. The flag and drag not quite going to connect as the Z-Drive Resonance is more than enough movement speed to take Caps out to safety.
Ben, as all of the LPL top laners have been carry-oriented players, 369, Zoom, and Ben kind of taking after the go-goings, if you will. It's a very different look for LPL tops, as Xiaohu and the likes have been recent representatives, more of those tank-oriented players. Maybe it's time for Suning to remind the world that LPL used to be known for their carry tops.
Certainly potential to do so this game. Has a bounty on his head, 2-0-2. The free boots have now come through as well. And the later this game goes, the more Ben is going to be a big threat. And he's already a big threat right now. A little bit awkward there, but it's not going to matter too much. Wunder is just going to get locked up and taken down. A wasted Camille ult, but Suning not going to feel too bad about that one as they now push in on the top side of the map.
Yeah, continuing to funnel gold also on the Camille. Now, maybe you get some damage back here for G2, although you need to respect that if you don't have information about where the rest of Suning are, that you can get flanked like this.
Pull back, now looking to engage already. SwordArt now coming in though, stun should connect. Mikyx gonna go down, Perkz probably just next on the menu. G2 very much overplaying their hand.
And rightfully punished. To quote Cadril, that's illegal. You didn't know that where Suning was. They could have absolutely flanked you, and they do just that.
Yeah, and Ben now going in on Caps. He's running out of mana pretty rapidly, but I still think this trade favors him overall. Caps doesn't seem like he's going to be able to turn this one. One more stun, just gets the Z-Drive Resonance and is now running out to safety, but here comes SofM. Where's the flag and drag going to go? Waiting for the ultimate. They're covering every angle. Gets him with the chilling smite, hits him with the emote, and my God, Suning, they're on the path to win this game.
They are steamrolling over G2 right now, absolutely slapping the ball out of their hand after some very big ego plays from G2. Now, if you're a North American fan or a G2 fan, you need to pump the brakes a little bit. Stop overextending, overcommitting under these towers, these plates. I think Perkz and Mikyx in particular have been very suspect and very guilty of this as we take another look at this one. They wanted to punish, but didn't take account for the teleports, didn't take account for the potential flank, and then gave a lot of gold away.
Yeah, and the thing is that now huanfeng has Iceborne Gauntlet. So this is not a man that you just get to burst out as a Kalista Senna, unless he's really just standing still for an extended period of time. This game will not be easy for G2. You know, when you look at their draft initially, it doesn't really feel like, you know, it feels like a solid, it feels overall. But now we look at it here, and you have to recognize that they don't have a lot of good ways to start fights on their terms. And when you're ahead, that doesn't really matter, because pretty much any fight is on your terms. But when you're behind, the Jarvan and the Bard get to start fights whenever they want, and you kind of just have to respond to that. And if you try to force, you might just get more action like we saw in the mid lane, where G2 do not have the tools necessary to actually come out on top.
There's also the issue that when G2 find themselves in this type of situation, usually they like to play hit and run League of Legends, really split up the map and play these side lanes. And while you can still do that on the Ekko, for how powerful and how far ahead has been on this Camille, it is much harder to do that than they would usually even be in a position for, because Wunder is killable at this point, although is itemizing toward the Bork, so does want to try to fight onto these side lanes, but needs to be much more careful about it.
Definitely does. Continuing to step forward here. Again, though, eyes on the Bard ult, eyes on the Jarvan. These are the big ways to kick fights off in as well, getting scarier and scarier. So Suning really just able to walk up and push in. They've got 4 members here around the mid lane, where G2 are just playing catch up on the side waves. And now Perkz has been caught out. He's been isolated. The exhaust is now coming in. Mikyx gonna find the knockup, though. Can they take down Bin? They're running for the hills. Bin, has he overstayed? No flash, remember. With the hook shot, the wall dive. The flash over from Wunder, the instant's done. Now they want to turn it. Jankos stepping forward. huanfeng gonna be in trouble. Wunder immediately to the back line. This is where you want the Renekton. Collateral damage across the front. They're chasing them down. Angel gonna get good damage down, but not nearly enough to finish a kill. Running now. Disengage for a brief moment. The extra movement speed isn't enough. The phase dive will connect. SwordArt now has to run as well. G2 find a fight. They find a shutdown. They'll find the Drake as well. And just like that, they get an opportunity to bring themselves back into the game.
Going blow for blow. Who's going to overextend this time? This time around, Suning go a little bit too deep. Now they do manage to get most of their members out. If maybe G2 had more of that hard engage that you were talking about earlier, Jankos, it could have been worse for wear for Suning, but it's just the Bard that goes down. Yes, that's still a shutdown, but it's on the support Mikyx's hands in the Senna that picked it up, as well as a Mountain Dragon now.
Well, Bin as well. We can see here, feeling pretty confident. He's forcing out the early flash, but on the backside of the fight, some pretty solid play coming in from Mikyx, and Perkz does keep them alive.
Yeah, I'm going to say Bin feeling himself a bit here to go super deep on the Kalista, especially knowing that she does have ultimate. Still, it looks cool. Thinks that he's going to get out. Wunder just says, not today. Flashes over the wall, picks up that shutdown for himself.
Yeah. And of course, when you look at these compositions, it's pretty hard for Wunder to find a way into the back line against the likes of the Jarvan Bard, but when he does get the opportunity, you're going to have to hold that Doxis in the fight happening on screen, and, well, Suning are winning this one. Herald's going to be dropped down. Bottom lane tower now going to fall. Wunder is on the top side looking to trade 1-for-1 on towers, but Jankos has now been caught out. Not nearly enough damage, and Caps might simply be another name on the list. Suning continue to push forward.
This Camille is just an absolute terror right now. 4-1-3 for Ben. You'd think that he had flash with the gaps that he's able to close.
Yeah. Very, don't even access to flash hookshot. It's so powerful. Mikyx has to be very careful here. Ben might look like he's at half health, but he can still one-tap the Senna if given the opportunity to do so. Bit of an anti-synergy there, but they're still going to be able to find the kill as SwordArt takes out Perkz in the midst of that one. Suning now barreling down the mid lane. They remember what happened last time they let G2 get to late game, and they're not going to do it this time around. 20 minutes in, 12 kills to 4, and now a 4K gold lead for Suning.
But also a much easier to execute composition with very clear win conditions and how they're going to use their side lanes, but also their key ultimates to start fight. So I think this is a completely different animal than the first time that we saw Suning versus G2. As NA fans and G2 fans, it's looking pretty dire at this point. We talked about how usually at this point G2 would try to split up the map and play their side lanes. There's obviously a timer on the Kalista, but with Wunder being so far behind, it's still relatively dangerous. So it's really that same hit and run ambush style League of Legends from G2 at this point. Maybe you find some more shutdowns, maybe you find some uneven fights. Whereas Suning, if they group together and play around shadowing Ben, maybe in a 1-4, they should feel really confident to close this game.
They absolutely should. And of course, reminder, Suning currently at 3-2. They'll get knocked down to 3-3 if G2 find a win here, forcing the tiebreaker with Team Liquid. But if Suning win, both Suning and G2 will sit at 4-2. 1-1 in their head-to-head. And that means we will get the tiebreaker, the final match in what has become a best of 3 to decide who will get first seed out of this group. So if you are an NA fan, cheering for G2 right now. But G2, it's going to be a long road to find a way to come back in this game. It is certainly not an easy task, and Suning right now are this match's favorites, looking to take us through one more game to try to find that first seed.
You can see that G2 were really hunting around to see if they could get an unfair fight when Ben was off into a side lane, but Suning expertly sniffed that one out and just really putting the damage in with a lot of this poke from huanfeng. It's two ways crashing.
Jumping forward, laying down a little bit of damage, can't quite proc the passive, and meanwhile a tower is going to fall, and that looks like Jankos just deleted. He's so squishy at this point in the game. Perkz simply next. They're going to take him out too. They're ignoring Caps. They're just chopping down squishy members one at a time. Caps wants to do everything that he can to bring this one back, but he can't even kill SofM. Mikyx going to get dropped as well. Precision protocols left and right, and it'll be a tactical sweep for Suning because they are just cleaning house. G2 could not do it when it mattered most. They wanted to secure first seed. They'll get another shot to do so, but they'll deny the chance for Team Liquid to play their way out of this group.
And the FPX logos, the Invictus Gaming logos flashing. Suning are saying we may be the third seed, but we are here to represent the LPL. It is World Championships back-to-back for us, and you cannot count us out. They will get the tiebreaker for G2 to see who gets first in this group.
For G2, a few minutes to go back to the drawing board to figure out what they need to do next for Suning. Disaster averted, no longer just fighting for a chance at second seed, instead fighting for first, guaranteed out of groups either way. G2 and Suning will make it to the bracket stage, but we will play a tiebreaker to decide who will get that coveted first seed.
And unfortunately, this does mean a sad day for our North America brothers across the pond.
Yeah, brutal. If you're Team Liquid, condolences, of course. They might not be on screen right now, but they have just now been eliminated from Worlds 2020 after the results of this game. If you're an LEC fan, take a moment, recognize that what G2 need to do now is come back together, again, go back to the drawing board and find a strategy to bring them forward in the next game. We've talked a lot about momentum today. We've talked a lot about keeping a cool head in the face of high pressure circumstances. Well, G2 were above that for most of the earlier moments in the day as they were sitting quite comfortably. But that is no longer the case because first seed, as we all know, feels like a pretty reliable path to semifinals if you're a team like G2. Of course, there are some teams you don't want to draw, but second seed, this tournament is looking like a death sentence. Dan1 Gaming, Top Esports, these are not teams that you want to face in the quarterfinals.
But potentially also a JDG or DRX would still await you for a possible second seed. We'll see when all the dominoes fall, but Suning, that was a very different animal for G2. It looked like they just got a little bit shell-shocked there as things got so quickly out of control for them.
Yeah, and in Suning's Mercedes drive to victory, it is going to be the bot lane turnaround, and drive is the key word here. This was easy for Suning. After this play, everything just came together, and we're seeing the power now of Bin's Camille.
And again, leading up to this moment, you know, G2 had just had the outplay in the mid lane. They managed to survive the bot lane onslaught with a Wunder flashing away from the Camille damage, but then just way overreach. And it wasn't even a cookie jar. It was overreaching into a bear trap as Suning just took the whole arm off of them.
Yeah, and just a note from the personal opinion side of things, Senna support is booty. That is not a good champion. She just gets clapped by Bard. I understand she's a good laner, but Bard ult is just so good. And Mikyx is such a big playmaker. So while we step away, maybe G2 reevaluate their draft priorities. Maybe you reevaluate who you're rooting for if you're an NA fan after G2 let you down like that. But we come back. It is the tiebreaker for first. It is Suning versus G2 one more time.
Greatness accepts no lag, no delay, no excuses. It lives in the tiny space between milliseconds and nanoseconds, between memes and legends, between tears and tears. And when margins that small make an impact this big, nothing less than the speed and dependability of the Cisco network will do.
For me, this is what literally made the name of Huni an international play.
And that is the miracle play that keeps CLG alive.
This was a magical moment to show that finally North America can actually strike against the world's best, actually take games, and actually go far in tournament.
What are you willing to lose? You cover your wounds, but underneath them a million voices in your head that whisper, stop now. on your mind, and it's fighting you on yourself. The storm is coming. Wow, kid, what you gonna do now? It's your reflection looking back to pull you down. So are you gonna die today or make it out alive? You gotta conquer the monster in your head, and then you'll fly, fly, Phoenix fly. It's time for a new empire. Go bury your demons, then tear down the ceiling, Phoenix fly. And now you're playing with matches, come out of the ashes underneath you. A million voices in the crowd, they're screaming, stop now. Well, let them swallow the pride, you're turning the tide to true believers. Got them in the palm of your hand, you're playing God now. What you gonna do now? It's your reflection looking back to pull you down. So are you gonna die today or make it out alive? You gotta conquer the monster in your head, and then you'll fly, fly, Phoenix fly. It's time for a new empire. Go bury your demons, then tear down the ceiling, Phoenix fly. So are you gonna die today or make it out alive? You gotta conquer the monster in your head, and then you'll fly, fly, Phoenix fly.
Welcome back to the Safe Farm Analyst Zone. I gotta say, playing Phoenix and showing an LPL team beating G2. What is this, 2019 production? What are you trying to put us through here? That's just stress-inducing. And there is more to be decided. We do have a tiebreaker game here in Group A as we jump into that. G2 versus Suning for the rematch. Now, whoever wins this game will secure first seed and a massive advantage going into the knockout stage. That does unfortunately also mean that Machi and TL are not advancing. To remind you, because of that, G2 needed to win over Suning to give TL a chance at the tiebreaker.
Yes. That is just the G2 experience. Unfortunately, in the second game, there were a lot of question marks around like some of the draft decisions. I mean, we had question marks about the Suning draft as well, but in the same time, like it was a pretty chaotic game, and I felt like there were so many execution errors from G2 that, yeah, they weren't able to take that big win.
What can we call out from the draft then specifically from both sides maybe? Because we did see some different looks.
I felt like, you know, they were trying some different cooking styles and they just straight up went for too much spice in this soup because the Kalista, I don't understand why they went for the Kalista and went Senna support because there's no gain. Like, Kalista's not good against Ezreal later on in the game. It's not good against Syndra either. You're giving just all the enemy champions more value. Like, if you're going to put Senna support, you need to bring something to the table that actually makes sense.
And then also we talked about the top lane matchup, Wunder versus Bin. It ended up being Renekton versus Camille. And LPL top laners do love Camille and play a dirty Camille sometimes. And here he was just given every opportunity to rank up.
I kind of love this approach from Bin because this was kind of recognizing his strengths and putting them against Wunder. And that's such a Wunder move. Because usually Wunder is like, oh, this guy is only good in the early game, I'm going to outscale him and do better. This time around, he was like, I'm going to pick Camille, I'm going to outlane him because that's my specialty. And then my champion is just going to be more useful.
He also went for the Ignite in lane, and obviously there were a lot of question marks around it. But I think it was actually very valuable in terms of assisting him in the 1 versus 1. He was taking some fantastic trades, and it meant that Wunder had to be so much more careful as the lane went on because of that ignite. So I felt like that it was clearly something he was experienced in and took advantage of, and Ben did a great job in the 1v1 on the top side.
And what we also saw was in the jungle trying to kind of whittle down the champion pool of the choices for SofM. In the end, he was on Jarvan, and it was fine.
Yeah.
Face versus Jarvan.
Really can't. Yeah, exactly.
Question mark pinged it.
Yeah. But we saw it there. He went for the chase bot lane, and because of the phase rush, he got the kill. This man really comes up with the craziest builds on junglers.
I'm still not sold.
But
I'm still not sold on it. But you know what? You know what? If it works for SofM, then it works for SofM. So I'm not going to challenge the mad genius. As I mentioned, I think that the draft was like, it was very weird. In particular, like the Kalista Senna bot lane, if you're going to lock in Senna, fine. Do the Senna into like something like a Nautilus that you can then pair into giving you a pretty strong 2 versus 2 lane. But by going for Kalista, like Kalista just doesn't make sense into the draft that you're playing against. It's so easy to kite, it's so easy to manage, and I feel like that there was just too much going on in G2's draft, and they got rightly punished for it.
It does disappoint me a little bit just from the perspective of, you know, a G2 that we see when they've been under pressure. Even today in that first game, they really turned it on against Machi. They really turned it on. Now there's another game to play if you don't win this one, and all of a sudden we see this odd draft coming out, really lackluster play, giving up kills left, right, and center in this game to let it snowball out of control. And I don't want to hear that whole, oh, it was a funny game or it was, you know, an int game or whatever. I don't think you can do that at a World Championship. This is for a first seed. This is to avoid Dam1. This is to avoid top esports. So it just disappoints me a little bit. On the other hand, they do have another chance. What is the focus going to be from G2 Yamato?
I just feel like they need to unite behind like something within the game. Because you have a Renekton top, Graves synergy doesn't exist. Graves Ekko, same thing, doesn't exist. They want to accomplish 2 different things. Graves wants Ekko to play for him, and Ekko wants Graves to play for him. It doesn't really work that way. I want them to just make a simple strategy, make sure that maybe you play on the 2v2 mid, maybe have the Volibear again. Just go to what you know, unite behind the same thing, and then they can get to the parts where they actually are really strong, the mid to late game decision making, and that's what beat them the first time.
To inform you, it is the same as the last game. Suning will be on the blue side, and G2 will be on the red side.
Yeah, I think that I'm very much aligned with Yamato. It seems to me that G2 tried to just do too many things at once in the draft, and like I even had question marks around the draft order, because it was clear that they didn't want to show anything. They wanted to try and get lane matchups so they could gain advantages. And like if you just look at things in isolation, like sure, I can understand why you'd pick Renekton into the Camille, like that makes sense. I could also see a world where you would pick Kalista Senna into like a Bard Ezreal. Sure, in the straight up 2v2 you might be able to gain advantages there. I can potentially see that, but they're not looking at it in terms of the holistic comp. You can't just beat a team like Suning in a way in which you can just rely on your 2v2 or individual prowess. Like Suning were grouping up as 4 or 5 and just roaming around the map and getting picks, and G2 couldn't punish them for it. So I really feel like G2 really needs to turn it on to get first in this game.
I agree, and I think when we turn it then on the perspective of Suning, the third team coming into the LPL, inconsistent in the LPL, but a lineup of young rookie players led also by SwordArt, who make it now to their World Championship and had the best result they ever had in the LPL playoffs. And they look poised, and I think that's a great thing to see, because G2 in the end, they should be the experienced ones, right? They've been here before, but Suning is outplaying them.
Yeah, for sure. Also, we have to take into consideration that these guys have never played best of ones. A lot of them have never played best of ones before. This is a very different look for them.
Technically, they've played 3 now, right? So
yes, I mean in the sense of before this tournament.
I know.
And looking at the context of the things that they've done wrong, they had the full AD draft, which I hope they've learned from. Yes. And then they had the late game situation where G2 took them to the deep end. And that's good experience, especially coming into best of 5s, because that's going to pay good dividends if they manage to get the first place in this group.
That it will, as again, first place so incredibly important to avoid those heavy hitters. And it is all on the line here as G2 and Suning face off in just a few minutes in the tiebreaker.